Welcome back, everyone. By popular demand, I have back to give you another outstanding webinar. And this one's going to be on how to utilize some corridor tools and building corridors. Corridors, the fun never stops. So with this, I'm Carl. I'm your Senior Civil Technical Specialist at ATG USA. Make sure to reach out to us for any of your training needs. We also have outstanding production staff. If you're running short and need some help, we can jump in and help you out with some of our fantastic tools as well. Today, we're going to be going on with the corridors, and here's what you will need to create a corridor. We're going to need some 3D objects to create those corridors, and we'll be going into that in a minute. Also, today we're going to be going over regions and baselines, how those represent and what you're needing to be using to base your assembly off of. We're going to be going over the targets and creating some assemblies using some straight out of the box Civil 3D stuff. We're going to be splitting and merging some corridors. You know how it goes. Your contractor doesn't want to build that entire 250 lot subdivision, so he comes back and only wants to build 10. So we're going to also go through and manipulate those corridors and some of those little sections to get what we want, possibly go into some conditionals with cut and fill and some horizontal conditionals as well. Then we're going to be taking those corridors and we're going to put them into a surface, and we're going to manipulate those point codes to get the information that we want to get. All right, so today we're going to be building it by the foot, and I'm going to kick straight into some Civil 3D. We've got a subdivision here with our alignments, our connected alignments and our offset alignments for each one of those. We have some profiles already set up here, and we've got some assembly sections that we've created up in here. So first thing that we need to do is going through when we create our corridor, we need either alignments and profiles or feature line and assembly, and potentially probably a surface that we want to tie down to as well. So starting right off the bat, we're going to go ahead and create an assembly. So we can use the create assembly function here in our contextual ribbon. And very importantly, let's name our assemblies what they are. So this is going to be road A, full section. All right, here we have our assembly type. This is nice enough to classify these as undivided or divided plain roads and crowned roads, railways and other. I'm going to go ahead and do a undivided crown road on this one. Our assembly style is how our marker looks, and our code set style for this one, we're just going to use all codes with hatching. And then here at the end, we're going to show you how to modify those code set styles to make them look like what you want them to look like. All right, so we come over here and we're just going to select our little assembly, and that is our assembly. Ooh, amazing. All right, now we're going to go over here. We're going to pull up our tool palettes. We're going to scroll over here. And we're going to roll up to our civil imperial subassemblies. Now, companies can go through and you can add to your tool palettes with sub-assemblies and sub-assemblies that you've created, and you can also import in custom sub-assemblies with the sub-assembly creator. We're going to go through and start with our standard lane super elevation. I'm just going to select it and select my assembly. Now I've got my lane in here with my assembly. That's going to be a sub-assembly. Now I can give it some options. I can give it a width option if I want. Let's say my typical lane width is 11 feet. I can do that. In this case, I've got a 2% cross slope going on with my sub-assembly. Here I've got my pavement 1 depth. We typically call this a wearing course. We've got a pavement 2 depth, which is going to be a binder course, and a base depth here, which is usually your aggregate. Let's put a 7-inch on that one, and then a sub base course, which we can use to be select fill 0.5 feet deep. All right, and now we have our slope direction. In this case, this is going to be the crown point. this is the point that's going to follow our alignment profile or feature line, both horizontally and vertically. And in this case, this road is sloping away from that crown. And then if you have a pivot point when you go into super elevation, how that wants to function. So we can actually switch these inside point codes here from the inside being the edge of pavement and our outside being our crown, which would then make this point here our pivot point. I'm going to actually switch that back because I do not want that in this particular case. Edge of pavement. All right. Then we're going to go through and we're going to select one of our fantastic curbs. Here's one of our urban curb and gutters. This is just kind of a standard barrier curb used here. As we can switch this back and forth from left to right side. Keep on my left. Where we want that insertion point to be. In this case, this one's coming from our gutter edge, but we can change that to the curb back. And then what type of slope we want on our gutter. Now, the benefit to these handy dandy little civil 3D sub-assemblies is we've got a lot of dimensions down here, and I don't really know what any of those really mean. I can sit there and plug in numbers and see what changes, or I can go over here to the help function, which I right-clicked into our tool palettes here, and we can see that B is going to be our gutter pan or our gutter width. D is going to be our curb height. And if we wanted to remove that sub base extension, we can do that here. And here's going to be the width from our flow line to our back of curb. And then C is going to be that depth between our edge of pavement and our flow line. So I'm going to come through here and close out of this little guy. Now that we have that information, I'm going to come through and I'm going to remove that sub basis extension. And I'm going to come down and let's make this 24-inch gutter pan work just fine. Now we need something like maybe something to tie down to our existing grade. So we have a lot of different options here. We can have the daylighting general function, which is going to give us a wide variety of selections to choose from on different ways that we want our cut to work. If we have a cut 1 width, we can go ahead and put 2 feet in there. And then, so now we have a width when we're in cut and how we want that to kick into play. Down here, we also have what slopes we want those flat, medium, and steep cuts to be in. So if we're at a 6:1, then we're going to run a flat cut on that max height. So any cut over 5 feet at 6:1 is going to be at 6:1. Any cut that's over 10 feet is going to be 4:1. And then anything else after that's going to be at 2:1. So that's how we can distinguish that information through there. We could come through, get lazy, and just type in 3 on all of those if you wanted to. So now you got a max 3:1 on all of that. You'll need to do the same thing down here to our fill section. So we can change that to 3, change that to 3 in this particular case, this one. Now, each one of these daylighting assemblies is different. We have some that daylight to multiple surfaces, so you can choose which one you want to go from. And then we have some basins, ones with ditches built into them. We also have some stripping pavement and being able to daylight that straight to our right of way. So now that we've got our assembly put into place, I'm just going to select it and right click and go to our assembly properties. And here we have our construction of that left side. I'm going to go ahead and rename these to make this easier for me when I go through and start targeting. So we're going to rename this. We're going to call this one just curb left. We're gonna call this one lane right. And we're gonna call this one daylight left. But that one also needs to be left too. See, I'm just full of surprises today. All right. I can also come through and change those variables that we changed in our properties dialog box here. Now we have that. I'm going to go through and select all three of these items and mirror them and create my full road typical. Now that I've got my full road typical here, we can come through and we can go ahead and create corridor. So here we're going to name this one Road A. It's like I work in the field. All right. And I'm going to come through, and in this case, I'm going to choose my alignment profile. I would like to choose that alignment, and I would like my finished grade profile with it. And I'm going to go ahead and attach my new Road A full section assembly to it. Here, this is nice enough to go ahead and allow us to select what surface we're going to tie down with our daylighting. And then if you want to suppress the next dialog box, uncheck that box right there. All right, so now we have a baseline and a region. So this first top one right here is our baseline. So it's going to specify our horizontal alignment here and our vertical baseline that we're attaching that to. We can modify that if we need to a different baseline with that point. Then here under our region, we're going to have it use this assembly, and we're going to start this station and end this station the total length of our roadway section. Here for our frequencies, I'm going to go through, and this is going to put in additional sample points, or where to put in that assembly along, in our case, tangents are straight line portions. And then on our curves, we can go ahead and let's try to increase that where we get a little tighter section through there. All right. Also, we have the options for spirals and anything along our vertical baseline. If we want to add more points and curvature points there, we can do that. That way, that's nice and smooth too. And then if we wanted to add incremental special sample points, like let's sample, you know, maybe here and here and here. Now it's going to add those and create additional frequencies to apply that assembly. Okay. I'm going to look over here in our targets for this assembly. And here's where we have our lane right and lane right, because when I mirrored it, sadly, I didn't rename those like I should have. So we're going to have to do this the good old fancy way. So we've got a width target on our left side of our road. And so that one, I don't need to target anything at the moment because that stays 11 feet the entire time. On my right side, I need to give it an offset target at the moment. And to do that, I'm going to select a feature line that I have here. Now, with that being into play, it builds my corridor. Got a couple of things going on there. We'll look into that later. I've gone through, and because I've selected that horizontal target, my 2% is going to be maintained from my crown, which is here, all the way out to here. If you want a variable slope through there, where it goes from, let's say 1% up here to maybe 2% cross slope down this way, or let's say that you want to elevate this where all the water flows down this way, we can change that feature line elevation. So select that one there, and we can go up to here, and let's specify this grade at 1%. And now we can come back and we can change those corridor properties back to our parameters. in that target zone under here for our elevation. And we can select that feature line. And now whatever that edge of pavement is now is going to tie to that feature line section elevation through there. Raised hand. What you got there, killer? Okay. Now we're going to go through and we're going to split some of these regions up. So I'm going to use the split region function and select my endpoint here. And over here. And over here. And while we're at it, we're just going to grab and split some sections up through here. And down here. Now we have our sections over here. We've kind of split these regions up into various sections. We can zoom in here and we can drag ours over to where we want to end them and start them. And let's quickly do an intersection. So here we have our connected alignments and offset alignments, and these have profiles associated with them. So I'm going to take our road A corridor here and I'm going to come up here and add a baseline. And now I'm going to select the alignment and profile for our connected section. And it's going to go ahead and prompt up which one that one is, what profile. And now when I come through, I can add a region to that one. Bring it down to here is fine. And what assembly we want to attach to it. So we can go ahead and let's see if left works. And with our width targeting, here we can come through, and this is the old dialog format, select our center lines of our roads. And that's going to handle our width functionality. Road A, add, and I believe that one is road F. Add. Okay. So now my lane width is going to be attached to both this alignment and this alignment. I'd also like my targeting elevation to follow that connected alignment of those two profiles. So I'm going to now choose my road A profile. All right, so we'll do that one. Let's just go back and use my other thing here. So you can come in to our corridor properties, come back down to here. Let's set those to where those are nice at 5 feet increments. Come over here to our targeting with target elevation targeting. I'm going to want that on my road A PGL and my road F PGL. And then while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and set our target surface to existing ground. Now let's see if I chose the right one. Doesn't look like I did. I think that's because I used the wrong assembly. Let's choose curve right. There we go. Now with that, because I switched my assembly, my targeting information got left. So we can come back, go back to our offsets here, set this to road A and road F. Going to hit apply. Go over here and hit road F. Both of our proposed grade lines. Now my intersection has been tied in with the profile for our connected alignment, followed the slope and center lines of both road A and road F. And then now we only need this one section here to the right, which we can then just add a region from here to here. And I'm going to apply my road A section left. And we're just going to tie that one all together and maintain my 11 footers. As you can see, we're still in the same corridor. We haven't gone through and created separate corridors. If you wanted to, you could create a separate corridor for A, road F, E, and so forth. So we're going to come down. Still looking like we got some good time here. Excuse me. And let's just do this one right here as well. So we're going to select our corridor, add a baseline, select this guy, select that profile that's attached to it, add a region, and I'm going to just near us there, and that point there, and use curve left on that one. Nope, still use the wrong one. All right, curve left, no, curve right. Let's go ahead and change that to 5. And set our targeting. Surface first, existing ground, offset with target. It's going to be road A and road F. Elevations are going to be a road A and a road F PGLs. And now we have that intersection complete and tied in with there. All right, so cul-de-sacs seems to be another question that keeps coming up in my land. You come through, and I'm going to completely go down to a whole separate area here. And I'm going to use a feature line for my main point here. Now, when you do this feature line here, when you select the site, it brings up all the feature lines that you have on your site. The top one may not be the one that you necessarily selected for your site, so double check. In case this case, it's going to be feature 6 for us. All right, with that feature line, go back and then add that region again, because baseline to here. And I'm just going to apply my curve right again. And in this case, I'm going to choose a width target of that center line right there. Road E. Now, kind of stretch that out to the end of that feature line. Now, the benefits of using a feature line, if you noticed up here, where I put in the wrong curb return because it was going backwards. Let's just say, for instance, we do the same thing on this one. I'm going to go through, add that baseline, feature line, that one, and that one. And we use our curb left return. So this should spit this out to the opposite side. Actually, the right one on that one. Come through, use the curb return right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and target that width again of my center line alignment, my pavement, and hit apply. And see, now it's not targeting because it's going to the wrong direction. So if I can come in, I can switch, reverse the feature line, and then set my targets. Should work out just right. With target road E. And if we wanted to, we could also set that profile to road EPGL. Apply. And now using the same one, even though my directions, I can flip directions on how I need to. We can also bring that one out to here or wherever the beginning of our feature lines are. Now in this particular one, I still need to go through and edit those targets for our surface. And we'll just set those to our existing ground. All righty. So we have all of these attached through here. If we wanted to, we could also add, edit, and change those frequencies between those. So do the same thing for all of our intersections, all of our cul-de-sacs through here, and then complete all of that together. And you would have one corridor that handles all of that with additional baselines. Now, using the contextual ribbon allows us to come through and kind of isolate regions for areas that we're working on. So in this particular case, I have that one set as the one. We can come back and show all of our regions as well that we've working on. We can delete those individual regions once we've done that, and we can hide specific regions as well. So we can kind of streamline our process here. And then just to get those back, just come back and show all my regions again. Now, with that being the case, once we're done with that, we can then come back and then create a surface from our corridor. Select our corridor. We're going to use the corridor surfaces up here in our contextual ribbon. And it's going to prompt us to make a surface. In this case, we're just going to call it Road A surface. Select a style for that one. Just propose contours. I'd like to come through and set what I need to add to that surface. All right, so data type links are going to be pretty much anything perpendicular to your baseline. Feature lines are going to be anything parallel to your baseline. So in this case, we can come through and we can choose crowns, gutters, flows, those pavement to lines and links. or we can come back here and choose all of the top codes to give us a finished surface, or we can choose the datum codes to give us a subgrade surface underneath our road and sidewalks if we had those in place. I'm going to go ahead and create a finished surface on this one and then hit add. I'm going to add those to that surface as a break line. And I would like my overhang correction. So now my surface has been created, but it's kind of also tied a whole bunch of triangles in between these other locations. So I'm going to come back and I can either choose to use my corridor properties. Let's clear all those corridor properties, or I can come back to just corridor surfaces. And I'm going to go to boundaries and I'm going to add the corridor extents and do a shrink wrap around there. I've got some targeting that's not being picked up. So now my surface is just tied in to where my extents were on my corridor. So your surface here kind of ends it right through here. So with all of that, let's go through, let's do another corridor right through here real quick and do some interesting functionality. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to select this alignment here. I'm going to follow road G. Just going to do that a road A full section and tie that down. G. And hit apply. And so now my corridor overlaps the section through here. We could also come through, bring this corridor back and use this feature line as part of this corridor assembly. Let's just go through and add a baseline. Oops. Feature line. Okay. And add that baseline. I'm sorry, add that region to know what it's going to do. Up through there. And we're going to add curve return right. See what errors we got. Oh, I used that wrong one again. So here we're going to come in, change that, go to our parameters, road G, using curve return. Let's use curve right instead. Don't forget to set those targeting. Set this to existing. Offset, so it's going to road G. I actually have this one follow road G's alignment as well, or profile. So that one needs to be reversed. Let's rebuild that corridor and see what happens. There we go. So here I'm just going to stretch this one on out. Our endpoint, our same endpoint here. Tie this one into here. So now that that is all taken care of, we can come down and let's use some new functionality that's built in down here. Just going to select this corridor here and baseline for this one. Road E PGL. And I'm gonna add another region. Let's go from here to here. I'm going to use my full section. Don't need any of those. And clear. All right. So now with 23.2, we have the option to edit corridor transitions in place. And so in our case, right through here, we've got a sidewalk ramp. I'm just going to go ahead and take this little guy all the way down to here. Just where I know where my points are. Could do this by just stational math. But why do that? All right. So now we're going to select our corridor and we're going to go into edit corridor transitions. It's going to ask me to select a baseline. Select this one. All right. And our dialog box is popped up here. And now I'm going to select what subassembly I want to modify or transition. So in this case, I'm going to come through here and select this subassembly right here, my curb, and what parameter I want to modify. In this case, remember back from our help, dimension D was our curb height. So here it's going to ask what station do we want to transfer that from? I'm going to select right there. And then it's going to ask for a parameter value. By default, that one's set at 6 inches already. So I'm actually going to accept that and hit enter. Then I'm going to select my end station of where that's going to be. So we can go 403 plus 32, hit enter that way. Or we can come through and we can end those by selecting them where it wants to be. So keep in mind that this follows a stationing alignment through there. So in this case, I'm now transitioning this point between here and here. In reality, let's go back and change that start station back over to here. And I want my end station to be over here at my ramp. Now I want that to go from a start value of 6 to an end value of 0. Now between here and here, my curb is going from 6 inches to 0 right at my ramp. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to insert a transition below. It's going to pick up my end station that I have there and the start value of that end station. I'm going to then add an additional station here. And I'm going to leave that transition at 0. And then I'm going to add another transition below it. And that one is going to finish us off at this location here. And I'm going to change that one back to 6. I'm going to hit apply. Close out. And now I've got a transition between in there. So if we come back and we rebuild our corridors, and I may need to come through and go ahead and let's apply some other additional targeting here. Maybe an existing ground. With target surfacing, existing. Gonna hit OK. That's all right. So now we got some weird, funky stuff going on there. That's kind of cool. Where we've gone through and modified those. And then also, if we need to, we can come back and change that editing transition tool and modify these going through. It stores this information, and we can add additional new transition sets to that region section. And also we have whether or not we want to do that, bay tapers or reverse parabolics for those transitional types. And then also what side we want that to take care of on there. This also works with lanes with daylighting options as well. So the possibilities are endless through there. All right, so let's go through and let's say that we've already completed our entire thing there in our subdivision. We're going to come back over through here, and now we have the option to, like I said, our developer actually only wants to build this section of our subdivision and not this right through here. I can come in, and first I'm going to split my corridor exactly and create a new region right there. Okay. Now this is still being listed all as one corridor of road A. Now I'm going to come in and use my corridor splitter and select enter for my list view. And now I have everything of how I want that to split. So everything in road E, I need to go over. Road G, I'm going to keep in there. I'm going to keep my my intersection functionality for road G, but F, I'm going to send over to that one and that one as well. And that connected alignment down there at the bottom. And then we're just going to go through and then individually select some of these that we need to pull from. So go through and hit OK. And now it's going to tell me that I've got 4 baselines and 10 regions in my road A1 and my road A2. Process those out. And now I have my corridor information. This is going to be my road 1 corridor. And then down here, I've got phase 2. Let's see what actual region this is right through here. I can probably come back and then use my splitter again to move that back over. When that dialog box is in my way, I like that. Oh, that hit me again. New share screen. Share. All right. There we go. Now can we share the screen? We can. All right, so what I was showing before was being able to split these corridors. Let's go back and merge them back together. So now I'm going to go through, use my corridor merger and grab everything that I want into one corridor. I'm going to have those as surface corridor. I use my code set style here, and I'm going to merge the identical baselines together. And I'm going to add that to the new corridor, that one, and hit finish. And hit OK. There. So now let's go through what I was showing before my screen didn't go on. We're gonna split that region again here. It's already split for me. Good. All right. This particular corridor region is going to be copy 1 is where I need to bring that down to. Go to our CIM project, split this corridor. So I'm going to select this one, and that's going to get split from that one. I'm going to just move this over to here. And so now that one is in that corridor selection here. I can also come through and then select other regional sections by visual. May actually help out pretty good here too. And so now those have all been picked up and drug into that other corridor. And so that one's now into Road A corridor as well. We can come through, rebuild automatic on those. All right. Now that we have all of those and we've created surfaces, we'll probably want one continuous surface as we flow. So we're going to create a new surface here, and we're going to call this one our finished grade 1. Propose contours. And then we can come through and right click and paste each one of those corridors into our surface here for a completed finished grade. Now remember, when you're pasting surfaces, this works on a hierarchy. So if you paste a surface that has information on top of the other one, then that's going to be the one that dictates how that looks. So if for some reason our corridor G here was right here to the intersection, and we pasted that onto our surface after we pasted A, G information would overwrite the information in this corridor right through here. Now, occasionally you'll get holes in your surface. Like here's one right over here where we didn't do this intersection. What we can do is apply a boundary for us to go through. And I'm just going to wrap this around real quick because we're kind of running out of time. And close out of that one. And now we're going to go to our finished grade and give it add a show boundary. And that's going to fill in all of those areas that we didn't have that information in our surface between our corridors. In this case, you'd probably actually want to go ahead and finish corridoring out your intersection, but it will if you have holes in your surface where it breaks through, or where you pasted surfaces on top of other surfaces, it will go through and fix those for you. All right. So we have about 10 minutes left. Do we have any questions that we would like to ask on basic corridor and assemblies? Anybody at all? All right. We'll go through and do a bonus real quick. I've got an assembly set up here with a conditional cut and fill. In this cut and fill, I've got this where in our situation, we're going to try to tie our cut back within our right of way, which is going to be 10 feet off of our back of curb. So here I've got 4 conditional assemblies, and I've just pulled these up from our standard Civil 3D assembly sections. And I've got our daylighting to the right. So if it is under 3 feet of cut or fill, then it will just tie down with a conditional 3-to-1 slope. If it is above 10 feet or 3 feet up or down, I'd like that to put in a retaining wall for me. So I'm going to come over here and close this little guy out, and then set our tool palettes to, I'm not gonna be able to pull that one off. I'm gonna have that one put in a wall for me, or we'll just show curb in this case, double curb, since I don't have those assemblies up. Copy, put that one there, and then copy this one, put that one there. And then this is our road A full conditional. So I'm going to come back here to our assembly section. And I'm going to go to our entrance and change that assembly to our conditional. And I'll go ahead and change this to our conditional as well. And then set our targets because we've switched. So here I'm going to, in situations for our conditional cut and fill, we want all of this set to our existing surface. Just come up here, okay. Targets, surfaces, existing, and existing. Make sure that when you do that, you also go through and set the ones for your conditional cut and fills as well. And that way it knows what to do there. Build the corridor. And let's just go through and drop those real quick, because I think my area is not large enough for those. So let's come in here. I'm just going to grab this, put it way up here, and rebuild everything. So with that being the case, now we've gone through and in areas where I've got that additional fill, put in a curb, a double curbed it. So there's one curb there and one curb there. Typically you'd use the retaining wall functionality for that one and get that taken care of. But we can get into that one later, guys. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's webinar quickly on how to create corridors, manipulate them, split them, target various regions and alignments and offsets. As always, we're always available for help you out. Give us a ring anytime over at ATG. Like I said, you can get me or you can get somebody even better, even though that's kind of hard to beat sometimes. All right, y'all have an outstanding day, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Bye-bye.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.